thank you for the non-stopping applaud. Hi, I am Adam or whatever, and I'm going to talk about how can React become sexy, because that is what animation does to our application, basically doing it more magical, making it more magical and making it more sexy. So this will be my topic, and just first I will introduce myself. I work at Chain.Reaction as well as a developer, and also at Greenfox Academy as a mentor. And I will talk about a little more about Chain.Reaction because we are hosting this event right now. We are trying to focus on rapid prototyping and quickly adapting to the business needs of our clients, and that's why we are choose the JavaScript technology. So we are working on React technology on front end, and we are working with Node.js on back end. Yeah, so that is basically us. I don't want to bore you anymore with this. So let's get to started. Why animate though? So why do we need animations at all? So people are good at noticing motion and detecting motion. The human species is programmed like that. So basically, if you want to get someone's attention, you need to create some motion. If you create too much motion, you will be distracting them. The whole person will need to reorder the things that he's seeing at the moment. So basically, a good motion, a good transition will help the user understand what is happening on the screen. So basically, transferring between states are a good usage of animations, because we are able to tell the user what is really going on in the application, and we are going to show them what is really happening. So why again? Meaningful animations are good because the user can understand what is happening in the overall application, or what is actually happening on the screen. Even learn from the animation, so we don't have to get user interactions for animating. We can just automatically create some animation indicating that something could happen there, and this is how we can teach the users how to use our programs or applications. And also, it makes our applications more enjoyable, because good animations will be rememberable and remarkable and stuff like that. So basically, people will make more fun when they are using our app. So this is an example of fun animation. So who wouldn't want to reload all the time if the reload animation is like this? Yeah. So recent British studies, so humans are overestimating the passive waiting time. So we are actually measuring the waiting time longer than it actually is. So if we are encountering some nice animations between the waiting time, it will be less boring and less irritating for us to load the application, for example. There was a study about this, that actually just a little tweak on animations, for example, implementing a custom loader for your whatever loading, is basically making the users stay twice as long in the application, and that's a good measurement, I guess, for usage of animation. And also, successful businesses usually try to avoid any waiting or any time that the user don't feel that he is valuable and he is getting noticed or something like that. And this is happening when the user is just waiting to transfer state or load an API or whatever it is going on in an app. So basically, if you get a, I don't know, airport example, the airport is creating long corridors across the whole revenue. So when the user basically gets off the plane, he has to go through long corridors until he gets to his packages, and when he actually gets there, the packages will be there as well. So he actually won't notice that he was or she was waiting at the time, but actually that was happening. So yeah, custom loaders and animations and stuff like that. So how do we do that in React? I think everybody's first guess, or probably everybody's first steps in animation was jQuery. Am I guessing right? Stuff like that. Yeah, that's cool stuff, by the way. So jQuery is easy to use. You can customize stuff, and it's pretty easy to put in your application, and you can do whatever you want to with that. So probably everybody started with this. Do you know what's wrong with using jQuery with React? Anybody? Making it interactive.
DOM mutations.
DOM mutations, correct. The jQuery is actually modifying DOM, and that's basically the leverage or the great achievement of React's virtual DOM. And if you are using jQuery, you are bypassing that, so basically you get nowhere. And it actually not performing so well, but that's in the newer versions are fixed, or probably somewhat more fixed, but yeah. So that's not the best choice. But do we have CSS animations? Yay! Now we're talking. So we can actually pretty easily implement CSS animation with any components. We can just add class names, and we can enjoy them anyhow we want to. It is performing really well, and there are even animation frameworks. I call it frameworks because just a bunch of CSS classes, but yeah, we can call them frameworks. So here's an example. You're probably all familiar with the standard React animation, which is generated by the Create React app, the spinner at the top. So if basically you want to repeat that, then this will happen. So if you have a good CSS animation in your CSS classes, then it will create a nice animation, and it will endlessly repeat it if you set it up that way. And also you can use stuff like predefined animations, like from the anime.css. For example, am I typing? I am typing. It would be better if I see that. Animated. Infinite and pulse. Is it doing anything? Oh, mistake. Cool. We are doing this. Can you see that? Should I change another one? For example, rubber band. Let's move see. Cool. So we can have CSS animations in React. It's pretty easy. Do you know what the problem is with that? Actually, oops. I left one something. Well, whatever. So yeah. Basically, the problem with that is actually we have to assign them to existing components, and what happens if I try to create a transition? That's basically creating a new component. I want to make the component appear somehow. With this kind of technique, I won't be able to do that, because CSS animation will start after the component is mounted. So basically I can't really create a fade-in animation or stuff like that, because that won't happen just after the component is mounted, and that will cause some weird appearing and after that fading in type of thing. So People at React thought of that, so hopefully you already maybe come across with this, but there are transition groups. So basically you can create transition groups where you specify the name of an animation, and you will create an enter state, and you will create active state and the leave states and stuff like that. And if you assign this to a component, it will basically do this animation whenever the component is mounted, and you have to put it in a specific React or CSS transition group component, but that's, I guess, safe to say stuff that we can do. So here's another example for that. CSS transition group, we specified previously the CSS animations. We have to redefine something here, and we are creating, and we can create and we can remove stuff from this nice little preview here. So for example, I will add the one, and it will just animate inside. This is the standalone component, and if I add another one, it will add another one here. I can add the third one. No worries, it will working hopefully. And yeah, and also I can remove it. So yeah, we can use enter and leave animations on when creating components and leaving them or destroying them. Cool. So here is what I was thinking previously. Problem. What are the problem with this? Actually, not that intuitive. Creating CSS animations are pretty hard. If you are good in CSS animations, then you are probably good with this or not agreeing with that. It's not really not for everyone, especially not for me. So yeah, it's hard and not that intuitive. You have to repeat a bunch of stuff, which is code repetition, and people try to avoid that. And we have predefined stuff, for example, around the animated CSS, but it's really hard to customize, make components from it, or do something that is organizing or structuring. Yeah, if you want to create complex animations, sequencing different animations after each other, then it will be a pain in the ass, because you have to set up different keyframes, and if you create a very long timeline, then it will be a very long CSS keyframe list, which is not that good, I guess. So it's really hard to sequence animations after each other. Not that hard, but yeah, painful. Okay. Oh, and there is that. This is actually a trick, but it's an interesting one. So different implementations in different browsers of CSS animation. It's cheating a little bit, because it is actually SVG animation, but who cares, right? So yeah. So yeah, there can be differences between implementation between browsers, so probably that will be not that good. Okay, so what's next? We have animations in React with JavaScript frameworks as well. JavaScript is just more powerful, and you can do way more things than actually with CSS animations. So we have some React-specific frameworks or libraries, you can call it however, and we have some React-compatible libraries and frameworks that you can use. These are not the only ones, there are many others, but these were the most used, most starred on GitHub, so I guess these are mentionable. So the first one is React Animations that I want to talk about. It's basically nothing else, just doing anime.css in JavaScript with React, and it uses CSS in JavaScript technologies, so you have to include libraries like Aphrodite or Radium or GSS. So this is how it would create the styles, basically. But it's good because you will build together the components and the actual animations. So you will assign the actual created animations with the components in JavaScript, and that can be cool. React Motion, not that good looking in this kind of setup that I chosen. React Motion is actually doesn't have a concept of time. It's purely on physics based, so you don't need to set the time of an animation. You will just set a mass of it and some forces on it, and the gravity and physics will do the rest, and the animation will be nice and flow and whatever. You don't have to worry about curving as well, so basically everything will be calculated by it. And it's really complex and it's really complicated. So because of these kind of things, you actually have to understand the physics, and that's probably not that good as well. So yeah, but it works well with React Native and with the React router. I have an example here with the React router. So this is a transaction and transition animation with the React router using React Motion. So you can basically do any kind of animation with it, and it will work well. It's just using physics to do that. That's the thing for it. And I have another example for it, which is a little how does it work? How does it work? I don't know how to speak, whatever. Yeah. So basically, you have to create a motion. You have to create a spring in it, and that is this thing that will be iterating, or that will be the moving object in this animation. And for example, if I change this font size here, it will go and up, and it will be bigger and bigger every after. So yeah, this is basically how the very beginning of React Motion. I didn't get really into that because I don't understand physics as well. We have React Move, which is similar, but time and ease based. This is a really powerful library. And you can animate components. You can have animated components. You can have components between animated components. So you can do pretty much everything. It's very tiny, so you can probably get leverage of that. And this is also working in React Native, so it's good to know that you don't need to drop away everything that you have done for the web if you are going to native. I didn't actually put up an example because works similarly, but I put up an example of this because this is a React compatible animation library or animation framework, but clearly this is the winner of all of them. Very powerful, very big one. With great performance, and it has different implementation for different needs. So if you want to create easy and understandable animations, you can have understandable API. You can have a very fast and very tiny version of it. So there are a bunch of things that are incorporated within that. You can animate everything basically, from SVG parameters to CSS properties, everything really that is in whatever comes to the HTML or JavaScript or whatever. You can animate it with that. It uses HTML5 animation API, so and it works with React Native also. I have a quick snippet for that as well. It's basically creating components because that's the interesting part, creating transitions. So I have a component here, which is a circle, and it will appear whenever I click on the live preview box. So if I click here, hopefully it will create a circle. This is a different component, and the animation part which is interesting, is basically you have appear animation and the leave animation, and you can have from and the to. Where do you want from to animate to the actual appearing point, and from where to do you want to animate from the leaving point. So these are the basics of these, and there are predefined easings and stuff like that, which makes it very easy to use. So this is really relatively good and nice library for creating animation and transition and stuff like that. It's really what I was going to say. Easy to separate different concerts with this, because you can just set up, for example, these properties as an object, and you can pass through components just these objects. So you can basically predefine how anything will appear, and you can use those properties anywhere in your application. So there is totally enough one person who can actually use this library, and you can just pass everything through, and you don't need to worry about that anymore. And it will make your stuff memorable, because everything will appear the same way. Yeah. And for those of us who were worrying about performance and how it behaves until under animation, these are state changes. So there is a counter which pretty fast changing the state of the component, which is the box, and there is a start animation button which I put here, and it will create many type of animations sequenced together, and you can see that the state changes basically won't stop. So this is happening both of us together and between and stuff like that. So yeah, you can pretty much do anything with this kind of library. Cool. And I have one last thing that I want to mention here is I was coming to here from whatever, but it was so awesome that I needed to mention in this topic. So basically, Airbnb guys are on fire. They created a library that actually creates React animations from After Effects, Adobe After Effects. So you don't have to touch JavaScript to create animations like this. You just put it together in After Effects how the designer wants to, and render build or something like that. I didn't try it out, but this is convincing and awesome, and open source, of course. And yeah, so basically that's it. I have one fun slide, one fun thing at the end. This was done by a girl who did a very good talk at the React conference in Europe. And this is basically a bunch of React components animated. If I am able to load it. No, I'm not able to load it. Then I won't show you that. So yeah, but that's it basically. Animations and libraries in React. So thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, find me in the break.